Okay, and with that, we are recording. I want to welcome everybody to our November Chamber University, which is Human Resource Management. My name is Tony Moline. I'm with the Cedar Park Chamber of Commerce. And thank you for attending today's Chamber University. Before we get started, I did want to let you know that this will be recorded for you to view later if you need to, or to share with somebody you think may be able to find some benefit from this. I want to take a moment to thank Cedar Park Economic Development for being our presenting sponsor for our Chamber University series. Our speaker today is Mrs. Mary Dale with Family Emergency Rooms, LLC. Many of you may know Mary. Mary has been a very active member with the Cedar Park Chamber of Commerce and with Cedar Park community for many years. She owned the Mary Dale Law Firm for many years. She was also an attorney for Fritz, Byrne, Head, and Harrison. Prior to that, Mary was a United States Army officer, an ordnance officer. She went to Cleveland State University to get her Juris Doctorate in law, and The Ohio State University, where she received her BS in political science and government. I said that right, Mary, right? The Ohio State? I mean, that's a big...
That's huge. Good job.
So we got it. All right, very good. But I want everybody to send out a virtual applause for Mrs. Mary Dale, and I'm going to let her take it over.
All right. Thank you for inviting me to speak today, and I'm excited about it. It is a huge topic right now with human resources and everything going on in the world, and someday hope everybody in person. One of the things I did want to do is kind of telling you some of my backstory, because that will help to talk about and understand some of the issues I'm going to be talking about as we move along. So my story, I do have Texas roots. This is my grandmother, Alvita, who was born and raised in Texas. My dad was also born and raised in Houston. And this is my mother's mom. And my mom and my dad met working in the cotton fields, picking cotton in Northern California. These are me and my three sisters. I come from a family of 4 siblings, and that's me holding the baby in the middle there. And we did grow up working, picking prunes and harvesting grapes. Neither of my parents had a high school diploma. Their English was not their first language. And I actually helped my dad to read as I grew up and went to school. And lucky for me, they actually encouraged me, and they encouraged all of us to get our high school diploma. And that was a huge undertaking for them. And they saw that as offering us more opportunities. However, something that I'm familiar with, through encouragement of my teachers and the school counselors and other folks, I was able to talk to and get the information and get educated from about college. I was able to attend college. I ended up joining the Army Reserves right out of college, and was assigned as a legal specialist. And let me see here, I think I got, and did one, when I was legal specialist attending my advanced training, at the ripe age of 19, I met my husband. We were both 19 years old and going through our Army training at the time. And he encouraged me. He saw right away that I loved what I did, and I was good with what I did about, after college looking at law school. And then the commanders that I worked with, who were lawyers in the JAG unit, also encouraged me. And that was something I had not really thought about, knew that I would have loved to do it. I love fighting for the underdog. I like going in there and being able to stand up for folks. But with their encouragement, I went ahead and graduated from college, joined the Army. This is a picture of me in, I think I wrote this down. This was Thanksgiving Day, Camp Doha, Kuwait. The combat mission that we had in Kuwait and Iraq for Operation Iraqi Freedom. And they actually delivered us turkeys in that day, so we got to eat something besides MREs, which was nice. So I worked there for a while and then went to school and did graduate from Cleveland Marshall College of Law, where I was involved in the Fair Housing Clinic, the moot court program, and graduated from there with a 1-year-old child by that time, and went on to work in private practice, opened up my firm about 7 years, I believe 7 or 8 years into practice. Yeah, because I've been practicing for 18 years, almost 19 now. So after 8 years of working with other folks, opened up my own firm, as Tony mentioned, the Marydale Law Firm. Took a job in March, right before the pandemic hit, closed down the firm, and with the encouragement of one of my long-term clients, took a job as in-house counsel, which is something I thought I would always love doing, and he encouraged me to go ahead and take the plunge, and I'm absolutely glad I did. I love where I work, and I love my job. So what we're actually going to be talking about today is some of the big issues that have come up in human resources. And I will tell you, you could spend all day and many hours about one of these items, and then one point on one of these items. So this truly is an overview. This is some of the stuff I've learned from some recent CLEs that I have attended, some organizations I have been a part of, and my own experience. So most of it is going to focus on the diversity and integration issues, but there were some items that I was looking through and was kind of surprised that a lot more people didn't know about it. So the COVID-19, I'm going to hit on some good topics there, quick topics there. I did pretty much copy and paste some of the statutory stuff that I was relying on, because I know people can go back and look at it later. So a lot has happened in our world. We've had some pandemics, and those have brought out some disparities in the older population and some of the minority communities and those who live with extended families, and how that's impacting people. We had George Floyd and the racial tensions that also highlighted some things I think a lot of people were not aware of. And that's made people more accountable, including businesses. And so there's a higher expectation. We've had some businesses go out there and go in support of some organizations, donate money to other organizations, encourage employees to be involved. And now the consumer is going to go back and they're going to try to hold those people accountable. You talk the talk, now you got to walk the walk. What are you doing? So businesses are going to be more accountable and are going to have to explain where they stand. And that goes with the courts too. The courts are more aware now on some of the problems that have been out there. And I think there was this recent CLE I went to, there was one court that actually refused to classify a panel of lawyers on a class action lawsuit because they were all male, and basically told them to go back and come back with a team of lawyers that was more representative of the communities. And so, legally and with our clients, businesses are going to need to be more accountable. So how do you go about doing a diversity integration program? And it's going to be different. These are some of the things to consider. It's obviously going to be have to be tailored and what works for your business. But here are some of the things. First, make the business case. There is the public accountability. We need to do something. We need to be thinking ahead. We need to be able to respond to our customers or our clients. It's the same thing I mentioned before, the legal expectations. If we do get sued, or there's an EEOC complaint, or there's some other matter regarding a decision that was made, how do we respond to that? Also, sometimes it's a more well-rounded workforce when you have people from different experiences, different backgrounds, and different points of view that can contribute to making your business more successful. And it's a personal responsibility. We've been given the opportunity to take this situation and try to make it better through our companies and through ourselves individually. So there's a lot here. I kind of laid it out, but basically these are some of the steps to look at. Do some research. You don't have to start from scratch. Some businesses have been doing this for years. What have other companies done? What resources do I have as far as time, money, education to share, committees I could use, community resources that could assist me. What resources do I have to be able to figure out what I can do? Do I have money to go recruit? Can I go travel? Can I, set something up? Can I go talk to community leaders that may be able to guide me and so forth? Develop a proposal. And you got to get your governing body to buy into it. So you got to take the research, determine where you are as a company already, and then go solicit and incorporate your feedback in to try to implement this. And this is the Utilize an Inclusive Steering Committee. That it's really, instead of this really being a top-down issue, this really should come from the team members and above, and getting different people's points of view, setting goals, ideas, and getting as much and presenting that to the top and trying to get the buy-in. And just being able to have a more grassroots participation seems to work better for companies when they're trying to implement it, when you got everybody involved. And then, use the steering committee to go ahead and formulate, look at all those issues. What can we do? How should we do it? And how do we present this? And how do we start making this change? And again, these are just ideas on what other companies have done. And, it may not work, depending on your location, your size, your budget, and the pipeline ability, and what's out there, you may be somewhat limited on what you can do. So tailor it to whatever can work for you. So for example, the legal field. I actually got this information from a continuing legal education seminar I attended recently, and I thought this was a really good example for what I was going to be talking about today. So the legal profession remains the least diverse of all comparable professions. As you can see, 88% of the lawyers are Caucasian. Women only account for 20% of law firm partners, general counsels of Fortune 500 companies, and law school deans. People of color make up less than 7%, and less than 9% of general counsels. But this isn't a pipeline issue. It doesn't seem to be that it's not that the people aren't there, it's how we go about recruiting them. And so, women constitute 50% of law school graduates, yet you see only 20% of those positions that we've mentioned earlier. People of color, 25% of law school graduates, again, 7%. So women and people of color make up 45% and 22% of law firm associates, respectively. So the pipeline is there, but it's the recruiting. So I am going to use the legal profession as an example. So coming out of law school, if you didn't graduate in the top 5 or 10%, you couldn't even get your foot in the door. And it did matter what your GPA was. It did matter what your class ranking was. It did matter what school you went to. And so it's really hard to have a very diverse profession when you're constantly pulling from the top. And I'm not saying you reduce standards, you just widen your net. So casting a wider net to attract diverse talent. It allows you to have more people who may be able to fulfill different needs of your organization. That isn't just the person with the highest GPA. So at least in the legal field, and this may be true for those, some other businesses, that, you cannot see work ethic on a resume. I graduated in the top 15% of my law school class. There were some folks that wouldn't even look at me. But I worked hard, been working hard since I was a child. And anything we wanted, that 25 cents a bucket that we were paid to pick prunes, I was much more reluctant to go spend it on an arcade game because there was a lot of work that went into that quarter. And you expand your basic candidates, you open the door to other backgrounds, and to other points of view, and to folks who may not otherwise have been able to get their foot in the door, but can be really valuable. You know, real world experience is invaluable. And when, again, that 25 cents that I earned, you know, I valued that a lot more because I worked for it. And I was going to work to continue what I've been working for. And I was going to put value in it, and I was going to help improve it because I believe in it. And I want to support those people who support me. And so you can find some good, common sense, hardworking people and loyalty if you sometimes just cast that wider net. And, you know, remember, and this is one reason I think I gave you so much of my backstory is you know, people like me. You know, I never would have been able to attend college, let alone get a law degree, own my own business, become general counsel for a really growing and innovative company without people believing in me, without an opportunity to prove myself. And so just remember that as you're out recruiting people. And I know everybody, you know, it's hard right now with COVID and being able to meet people face to face, but this is just one of the ways. There's many other ways to actually try to work a diversity integration program, but just based on my own experiences and based on what I've seen with some folks that I know, you know, being able to cast that wider net and looking past the paper and looking past the school and looking past the GPA and bringing in people and seeing potential and giving them that opportunity, you can, you know, really recruit yourself some great folks. So there's me, came home from my first day of kindergarten. And if somebody would have went up and told my parents, knocked on the door and said, this little girl here is going to go to college, she's going to get a law degree, she's going to work for a really great company and make enough money to help you out and be able to take her family on European vacations and being asked to speak at chamber events, they probably would have said, you got the wrong house. But you tell this little girl that, and her counselor tells her that, and her teachers tell her that, and her commanders tell her she should go to law school. And this 19-year-old kid she meets and later marries encourages her as well, and actually takes on extra jobs and sends her to school to be able to fulfill her dreams. She'll believe it. So go out there, mentor, make the difference you can make as an individual, and see what good your company can in these really trying times, and make good and positive all the way around. It's very powerful, and I speak from experience. So on to other matters. As I mentioned earlier, I was going to focus on the diversity integration stuff, but there are some issues that came up during a recent seminar I attended, and I thought I at least want to mention, and I'm going to go through this part a little bit more quickly, just so you have some background. And like I said, the slides contain a lot of information you can hopefully download later from the chamber website. So a lot of issues here: returning to work, communication, confidentiality, legal liability. And I know, you know, pretty much in Williamson County, a lot of people have opened up, you know, but the one thing, and a lot of people have opened up virtually when people are working from home. A lot of people are coming in, and really communication has been, you know, a big key. Communicate, you know, when you're coming back, if you're coming back, how you're coming back. Are there going to be screenings? Are you going to be required to wear a mask? Are there going to be restrictions on when you should come back, when you shouldn't come back? And if you are going to implement screenings, how is that going to work? Is that going to work, digitally, before you come in? Is that going to work when you get to the office? What's involved? And if you do the medical screenings, and something does come up with an employee, you still have to set your workplace up in a manner to keep it confidential to the extent you can. The legal liability for having someone not come to work or having to tell the other employees that that someone's tested positive and can't come in, to be honest, it's still kind of up in the air. This has been new for everybody. There have been some legal battles going through the court. I think the only thing we've seen so far is that there was one court that did determine that a COVID-19 diagnosis was not considered a disability. But as far as whether or not there's going to be some liability if employers don't let people return to work, can't return to work, or somehow leak their confidential information, that still remains to be seen. And the courts are also backlogged because of COVID, and we're kind of just going to have to see how this plays out. But by taking precautions and trying to protect your workers, that's definitely going to help you in the long run. The other item I wanted to touch on quickly was the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act. This was legislation that took effect April 1st and is going to remain in effect until December 31st, 2020. This actually expands the FMLA to include, and like I said, these next slides have a lot of information. I'm just going to highlight a few things. So this applies to employers with fewer than 500 employees. I believe healthcare workers and first responders are exempt from this, but this basically says for certain reasons, you have to give paid sick leave, which is unlike the FMLA, which is unpaid leave. Oh, I skipped hold on a second. So to be eligible, all employees are covered, and they're eligible for two weeks of paid sick leave. Employees employed for at least 30 days are eligible for an additional 10 weeks. So this has been huge, and I was actually kind of surprised to learn that not a lot of employees know about this. There are exemptions for smaller businesses, potentially. You can, you'll see at the top here, they may qualify for an exemption if they can provide regarding the school closings or childcare unavailability if it would jeopardize the business. Sorry, I'm getting cut off here. And the viability of the business as a going concern. So there are a little bit of relief here for those with under 50 employees, but I still believe that's a process you're going to have to show. And here's all the reasons. There's 6 different reasons where you would qualify, an employee would qualify. And then depending on that reason is the duration of leave. 1 through 4 and 6 is this, reason 5 is this. And then the reasons also go to the calculation of how much that employee must get paid. And then I think these next slides, yeah, that was it. So I did go ahead and copy and paste the information from the Department of Labor Wage and Hour Division, and this kind of highlights everything. So hopefully folks can go back and look at that later. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak, and I'm going to hand this back over to Tony.
All right, thank you, Mary. Great presentation. We did have a couple of questions that came up. One was, is this going to be available? Yes, this is going to be available as a video, so we will be sending that out. And Mary, I think I heard you say that you were going to send me the slideshow maybe?
Yes, I can do that. I'll email it to you.
We can send that out to everybody as well, just so you have that for a point of reference, but it's all obviously going to be in that video as well. We did have a couple of questions for you, Mary, and again, I want to reiterate, this is not actual legal advice from Mary. This is just what she might go about looking at for some of these things. If you can do 100% of your job remotely, but your employer wants you in the office, what is the best course to work this out? And then they put a note that the office is an open setting and there have been confirmed cases of COVID with little information to staff. So
Yeah, it's tough, and I will tell you that's really hard. I do have the option of working remotely. I find myself having to probably go into the office 1 day a week at this point, and it's tough if your employer is requiring you to come back, and that could be for whatever reason. Being able to oversee you, being able to have those human interactions that are sometimes just needed. All I can say is I think you voice your concerns, but at this point in time, I think, you're still an employee and they're still your employer, and you're going to have to try to work with them as much as you can and communicate your concerns.
Kind of a similar question. What rights do employees have over fears from working inside the office if they are at a high risk for COVID?
So, I would say go back and look at the Emergency Leave Act I just put up there, because it does talk about people with high risk and people who live with people with high risk and people who've been exposed to people, and see if maybe there's any relief to you under that. As well as, obviously always try to have the communication with your employer.
Yeah. This one is, what is the best way to explain to somebody that you are requiring a mask inside for those who refuse to wear one otherwise?
Our office has big, huge signs that say you're required to wear a mask if you come in here. And when I go to the office, I do have my own separate office where I can close the door, but if I go into a common area, we require everybody. It's a policy that was put out by our company. And we will lock doors if we have to, so people can't not get in our building unless they're wearing a mask.
Perfect. Well, that was the last question. We had a couple on the Q&A, and it looks like we got all those answered. So with that, I want to once again thank Mary for helping us with this, and thank you, Family Emergency Room, for allowing Mary to help us out with this. Thank you again to Cedar Park Economic Development for being our presenting sponsor. This was our last Chamber University for 2020, so thank you to everybody, and we will see you next year. We'll get all that information out to you as soon as we can. So everybody have a great day. Thanks so much.